And if he keeps giving me cash, shit, you can buy my love, that's fine.
Yeah. You want my love if you want. Not that kind of love.
Sorry, I thought it was funny.
I'm glad somebody did.
Welcome once again to Noah's Snark, where two former religious types and current snarks take a look at religious media on its own terms.
I'm Hillary.
And I am Josh, aka Emily Rose.
Isn't she the one who got exorcised?
Yeah. Like, you said exercise, I thought like,
yeah.
Let's get physical.
Yeah, like...
It's like, oh, okay, I guess so.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, she means exercise.
She got Jane Fonda'd.
She got Jane Fonda'd. It's somewhat relevant, as all my nicknames are, to this episode.
Okay.
Legion's involved.
Ah.
By the way, I think I've mentioned it once before in this movie. That movie is on this... I've mentioned it once before on this podcast.
Yeah.
The movie's underrated.
I'd see it. Is it Paul Bettany? Who is it?
Tom Wilkinson.
Okay, I wouldn't remember. I kind of know that name.
Tom Bettany could be in it, but I don't think so.
Paul Bettany.
He could be. Because there's like another younger dude over Tom Wilkinson. He's like that older guy.
Yeah.
There is a younger dude, but I don't remember who it is. But I don't think it's
Isn't
Paul
there a
Bettany.
Legion TV show too?
Yes, but that's unrelated.
Okay. Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a comic book show, technically.
Paul Bettany's the main guy.
In The Exorcism of Emily Rose?
Oh, no, I'm talking about Legion.
The movie.
The movie Legion.
Sorry, I mean
Bettany.
the Emily Rose movie.
Ah.
Yes, Paul Bettany is the Legion movie. He's an angel who's trying to stop the
I
forces
was going to
of
say,
evil.
I heard that was terrible. And
No, that sucks.
Rotten Tomatoes agrees at 19%.
No, Emily Rose is underrated.
Oh, okay.
That's Tom Wilkinson and Jennifer Carpenter,
Gotcha.
who is an amazing actress.
That was fun.
Yeah, we were completely...
Yeah, totally.
You even said the TV show. I was like, what is she talking about? I got you now.
Yeah, we're there.
We're here.
Starting
we're together.
Slow.
All right. That's our coordination high five. We forgot to do
The
it.
gentlest of high fives.
That's why we messed up.
Oh, okay.
Every time we record, we do a coordination high five, and we forgot.
I mean, starting today, but yeah. We've
They
never
don't
done
know that. I know. If I say it and
But
I just
starting
pretend
now.
it's true,
Oh.
they'll think that we have weird rituals
That's
we
what
do.
I've been doing about my finances for a while. I can no longer pretend it's not true.
So before we talk about what we were doing today.
Yeah.
Hits or misses. Anything.
I have nothing.
I have one.
Okay.
Listen to the Image of the Beast episode.
Okay.
I wanted to clarify a point. This isn't either really a hit or a miss. It's a clarification on a point.
Okay.
We talked a little bit about whether you put someone face up or face down in a guillotine.
Yeah.
And it turns out there is no standardized procedure, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
I read two sources. One was a Quora, so I don't know if I trust it super well.
Mm-hmm.
But the Quora said face down was universal.
Yeah.
You would only do face up specifically to antagonize somebody. So the Nazis did it a few times.
Gotcha.
But another website...
You actually reminded me. I actually looked this up too. I don't think I wrote it down though, so keep going.
Another website, which I can't remember exactly which one, like New History, it sort of looked like Wikipedia, claimed that the executioner's choice was whether you went face up or face down, and typically depended on how they thought the prisoner would react to seeing the guillotine. If they thought they'd freak out too much, they would just put him in backwards and face down.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're just like, whatever, fuck this guy, face up. So there didn't appear. I'm more prone to believing that latter one.
It makes all the sense in the world to me that the only reason that they faced up was so they could have that scene where she's trying to fight the guillotine.
Oh yeah, I mean,
so yeah,
it's
stupid.
It seems unlikely to have done it that way. Face up seems stupider,
right?
But
we are.
It's not a mechanical need to be face down.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
although
maybe useful.
it's more. Something about the way it severs the spine first or something is supposed to be beneficial.
Yeah, because the guillotine was
death.
designed to be humane.
Right.
Which is bizarre, but yeah.
Yeah.
So, typically you're probably right that you should go face down because you're going to cut through the spine that way.
Right.
Ugh. Thinking of dismemberment, it's gross. And I guess decapitation. Don't be pedantic with me, okay? If you take off someone's head, you've also dismembered them. It's just a specific
I'm fine.
word.
I wasn't even going to correct
Not you. I mean the audience.
Oh, yeah. Fuck you guys.
Some person's out there, like, it's not dismemberment, you cut off their head, it's decapitation. Be like, decapitation is a type of dismemberment.
Yeah, you're right, but you're also an asshole.
Like, I'm sure there's a word for removing of a leg specifically.
Yeah.
But it falls under dismember.
It just reminded me, I had a very violent dream where Keanu Reeves and I were trying to fight our way out of the country.
I saw John Wick 3 again last night.
I want to see it again.
Yeah.
It's so fucking good.
It's cool.
Yeah, but
It's
we were
cool.
like best friends, and we killed a lot of people.
If you're gonna have a best friend and you need to kill some people,
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves is your
There's
choice.
no one better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're back to our show proper.
Mm-hmm.
Hillary, tell me what we are doing today.
Today, Josh, we are revisiting Superbook.
We're going back to Superbook because I wanted to watch something that I actually enjoyed for once.
Yes.
And better still, I chose the really good parts, particularly the end of the fucking world.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this.
So get ready because we are in for a wild ride, and it's going to be cool.
Yeah.
And as
Fucking
always,
metal.
let's talk about doing this in one sentence. And you did tell me.
Yeah.
You wrote a sentence for each episode.
I did.
I wrote one sentence for both.
Okay, so you go first.
So my one sentence that should cover both is, bringing all that genuine quality Superbook flavor to some of the more outlandish tales of the Bible, it's entertaining, but they forget to establish a good reason why Satan is the bad guy.
Very good. We will overlap at some point. In my one sentence for the first episode, we're doing 2 episodes today.
One about
everybody.
the miracles of Jesus.
The miracles of Jesus. I put Kenny Loggins proves that street magicians ain't shit.
Kenny Loggins.
He looks exactly like Keep the Fire era Kenny Loggins. Want to see a picture?
Yeah. I only know hairy bearded Kenny Loggins.
Well, yeah.
Oh.
Tell me that's not Jesus.
Oh.
Exact same bone structure and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. But also, he had longer hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Learn a lesson
Turns out
from
Kenny Loggins looked exactly like Jesus in the show.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm pretty sure he was the inspiration.
All right, so let's go ahead and just push through this, even though we're going to have a good time with it, I think. All right, so Gizmo, the semi-cute robot, skates over to our main character, Chris Quantum. And I'm going to give a little bit of background in case not everyone heard our previous Superbook episode.
Right.
I'm not going to go into too much detail because we don't need to establish the characters. It's a cartoon. It's pretty simple. Anyway, he runs over to our main character, Chris Quantum, and Joy Pepper. Those are the 2 main kids. And reports that he has intel on Chris's favorite street magician, Miraculo. Joy mocks Chris for liking a magician, but Chris says she won't be talking that shit when she sees what he can do. This guy can do miracles. He can do actual miracles. And the magician has a giant nose and a funny accent. And
Yeah.
he immediately steals Chris's cell phone from his pocket. Joy is impressed by Miraculo stealing the phone, and he then makes a park bench disappear in a puff of smoke. And then he reports that he's all out of miracles for the day, but he flies away and he returns Chris's phone as he does. And in Chris's words, as he's flying away, "What did I tell you? Miracles!" And it's time for the theme song, which is still pretty good.
I liked it.
It's good. I'm just saying, like, of all the shit we've seen,
Yes.
Superbook is the best.
It is probably
I was
one of the
actually... You remember the coworker I have who has previously complained that me and Kat might have said fuck Jesus on one of the episodes, and is into this and, like,
better. Yeah.
believes this stuff and thinks it's mostly quality. I don't know why, but she does.
I don't care.
I was telling her specifically...
She's not special. That's our whole state.
Right. But I was telling her specifically, you need to watch Superbook. Do not subject your kids to the shitty Netflix VeggieTales.
Ugh.
Don't buy them... She said she wants to buy them a salty video.
No!
I was like, why would you do that? That
It's so
shit's
scary.
awful.
There was later salties. We watched the scariest of the salties. There's later ones where he's not as scary.
Okay, well maybe that's what she was
We'll
talking
find
about.
them. Yeah.
But I was like, no, just have your kids watch Superbook. I don't like the stuff. That show was fucking awesome. Like, I have not had a major complaint about that show.
No.
It just works.
It does.
Alright, but let's move on to what happens after the theme song. Not one to be outdone, the Superbook is jealous upon hearing about the magician's great power, and so it transports the children again to biblical times. This time to a time of a true miracle worker, in Superbook's words. It's a very snarky little book.
Kind of is.
It's like, oh, you talking about miracles, huh? Well, guess what? Pow! And it's actually going to be a theme in this, at least, episode of this show. But we'll get there.
Time to learn a lesson, kids.
Time to learn a lesson. So Gizmo detects that they are in Capernia, I think. I couldn't quite understand what he said, but I tried. I think Capernia. In the early part of the 1st century. And we hear an onlooking crowd speaking about Jesus. And the child confirms that the one and only JC is here, and he's inside a house, and he's possibly going to work some miracles. So a sick man is taken into the house, lowered through the roof on a little gurney.
Yeah, did they not have a front door?
I guess not, I don't know. He wasn't letting people in the front door, even though they came in later.
I'm confused. Anyway, go on.
No one knows. But the children steal a look inside, and they see Jesus with the sick guy. And as the crowd watches, Jesus forgives him of his sins, the sick man, and gives him some comfort. And he's confronted by some unbelievers who I assume are Pharisees. Because that was sort of the conflict of the New Testament. And Jesus gives a little showboating speech about it is much easier to say he is forgiven than to command this paralyzed man to walk. But to further prove that he is the Son of Man, and he has the power on earth to forgive sins, he does command the man to walk. And so the paralyzed man gets off his little gurney and stands for the first time in at least a while, if not forever.
I bet that guy could do it the whole time.
Well, that's funny, because that's exactly what somebody says later. Of course, the crowd is initially shocked, and the man himself cries as he gives Jesus a great big hug before he goes out and proclaims that he has been healed by Jesus of Nazareth.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
When I said Kenny Loggins earlier, were you thinking Kenny Rogers?
Yes, because I immediately thought of a...
Old man with the white hair?
Yes!
Yes.
I was thinking Kenny Rogers. Who did Danger Zone?
Oh, that's Kenny Loggins.
Okay.
Kenny Rogers does more, like, he has, like, kind of more of a country
I was thinking
thing.
I was thinking of Kenny Rogers, absolutely. Yeah. That's why I was confused.
I thought, I'm like, there's something else happening here.
You're right.
Anyway, let's move on.
So, let's see. Oh, and then, so we're outside the building. And it very obviously, like, when we saw Samson, and we saw Jethro or whatever trying to be super sneaky, but he was really just super sus instead. I learned that from Hannah. But like a man in the middle of the desert with a complete cloak all over his whole body.
Yeah.
He's like, I am inconspicuous, not extremely sweaty. Like, we now have that.
That was Jasper from Twilight, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I couldn't remember his name, so Jethro.
Well, what was his name? Oh, you mean from Twilight? You were starting to say his Twilight name? Because Jasper's his name.
I was going
Twilight.
with any name that I could remember about him.
I was like, I don't remember anyone named Jethro, but I don't remember anything usually.
Yeah, his name in Samson started with an R. Like
I don't know.
Rotha or something like that.
Something old.
So I had Jasper. His real name is like
something Rathbone.
Jackson
Rathbone.
So I went with Jethro.
Honestly, that's a pretty even split.
Yeah, I just meshed them all together and chose a name. All right. Anyway, so that guy, very obviously sinister man in a cloak, comes by and he's going to cast doubt on Jesus' miracle, just like you said.
Yes.
He was like, you was probably never paralyzed in the first place. You could probably just walk.
No, I think it was all in his head, just like, Charlie Bucket's grandfather.
Oh, yeah. Just suddenly feels better.
Right.
It's like, motherfucker, what do you do? And this is, of course, Lucifer / Satan. Same guy, but I'm going to call him Lucifer when he's fancy pants and Satan when he's ugly pants. And this is him, if it wasn't obvious, and it was, I think, right away.
Yes.
Anybody who's remotely familiar with any of the characters would be like, that's Lucifer.
Yeah. He also has a snarly kind of a voice.
Yes. Oh, I bet he wasn't paralyzed ever.
He's my favorite character.
He's the best character.
The best.
That's why I'm glad most of the episodes we've seen are, like, about Lucifer. I don't want to see the others.
No.
I don't care.
I'm on his side.
But they make it obvious. If it wasn't obvious that he was Satan, they make it obvious because he basically, in the next scene, just transforms into his true demon form. And he flies away in a puff of smoke, which is the same effect that Miracula uses.
It's true.
It's true. It's not related, but I just want to be clear. They use the same puff of smoke effect.
Miracula was able to levitate and then disappeared into a cloud of smoke.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring that up again later.
Okay. But Satan basically is upset that Jesus is encroaching on his domain, which is the earth. And actually, I want to give Superbook a little bit of credit. I know we already like it, but I'm going to give him more credit.
Okay.
It is a common misconception, even if we take the Christian stories to be true, like the generic sort of idea of it. It is a very common misconception that Satan is in hell. But there's a very specific passage in the Bible that says Satan roams the earth like a lion looking for his next victims. So this show gets it right.
Yeah.
He's not escaping from hell. He doesn't live there. Like, he's fine.
Yeah.
He roams around on the earth fucking
hell
with
is
people.
self-sufficient. He is up top.
Yeah, he's
stateside.
here messing with humans.
Right.
So if you believe he's a real entity, he's not just like, well, I guess I'll get out one day and I'm coming after you. No, he can come after you anytime.
Yeah.
So just want to say, Superbook gets some credit for getting that right, at least. Because almost every other time Satan's on Earth, it's like, I got out. It's like, no. That's never been how it works.
You're not in prison. You're free. He's free. He's free roaming.
On the Earth. Because, I don't know, the fall of man and sin entered the world and Satan was sin. I don't know
Cage-free
how
Satan.
it works, but, like, that's how it works.
Yeah.
All right. But Joy and Chris disagree on whether Jesus is just a simple magician or something much more. And Joy is convinced that there is a lot more behind Jesus' abilities than the simple parlor tricks that Miraculo can do.
Yeah, and it seems like this late in the series, aren't they both pretty much believers at this point?
That's the thing. The show hasn't officially said one way or the other.
Right.
Like, I have a feeling they think Superbook is just like a really cool book. I'm not sure. It's hard to tell a lot.
Yeah, because they really don't talk about Jesus when they're in their normal lives.
They don't at all. I think it might be just sort of a traditional status quo thing. Where they're like, always sort of reset back to a vague believer stance rather than a firm.
Gotcha.
Because considering that
otherwise they wouldn't have lessons to learn.
Right. It's the Boy Meets World problem.
Gotcha.
Well, how can you learn a lesson if you're still so stupid? But yeah, I assume it's something like that. Because, like you said, they don't talk about outside of work or the show, their little adventures.
Right.
But they are sort of vague believers. Like, we know they know who the characters are.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe Superbook isn't just the Bible. Maybe it's other Superbooks. So they just kind of take all the stories as they are.
We're not seeing the episodes where they, like, dive into Da Vinci Code.
Right.
I would buy the hell out of that Superbook.
Like, there is an episode technically out there, hypothetically, where they're in they're in Harry Potter, and Voldemort's like, join me, and he's like, no, you're the bad guy!
It's foreshadowing here.
Oh, yeah, I am. But you know what I mean, so I don't know. We don't know for sure.
Yeah,
but
I would live inside of a Superbook if that was a real
yeah, it's
thing.
actually awesome.
Yeah.
It's why Wishbone was a great show.
Wishbone's best show.
Best fucking dog. Too bad he's dead.
There was more than one, wasn't there?
I don't know about during the run of the show, but yeah.
They should bring that show back. There are plenty of Jack Russells.
I know. It's not even that
They're
special.
pretty easy to train when they're not hyper inbred, like the ones I've met.
Molly, you're hyper inbred.
Is she?
No, I don't know. I have no idea. So Chris and Joy and Gizmo, the robot, join Jesus' entourage, and Chris tries to convince Jesus to do some more miracles to prove his points about blah, 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 whatever, son of man.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of zoned out for just a second. I was like, I don't care.
I don't remember, so.
Because Jesus gave him a little speech about, like, I am the son of the Lord of the God, and I'm the... blah. But Jesus isn't feeling like performing any miracles today. And I'm sure we'll get some more, though, because it is an episode called The Miracles of Jesus. And in fact, the crew was headed out to sea.
Yeah.
And anyone familiar, again, with these stories should probably know what's going to come. But Superbook has added a small wrinkle. Because Satan is in the sky and he's floating around with his little wings being all evil. Be like, I've got a plan now.
Yes. I love him so much.
No one can see my visual
He's
gag
so
with my
dramatic.
hands. Yeah, he's super... This guy is a true drama queen.
Yes.
I love him.
Theater kid to the core.
That's right. And so Satan creates a tremendous storm, and that's what causes some choppy seas. So the journey across the sea quickly becomes perilous and scary. And so everyone starts to freak out because they're probably going to capsize pretty soon.
Yeah, and Jesus is
just
a hard sleeper.
It's just like... He's totally out of it. He doesn't care at all.
He's just on a bench. It's not even comfortable.
But he wakes up to the screams of his companions, and he sort of scolds them, gets up, he's like, oh, ye of little faith. And then he rebukes the storm in its entirety, and he pushes Satan away through the sheer force of his divine will. It took him about 6 seconds.
Yeah.
He's like, what, you woke me up for this? Ugh.
Magic.
Just poofs it away.
Back to bed.
And Satan flies into the horizon like Team Rocket. He's like, no! But the storm disappears, and everyone is relieved, and of course incredibly impressed. And even Chris is beginning to think that there's something going on much more powerful than Miraculo. Just like, well, that's impressive.
Yeah. You've been on lots of adventures.
It's true. But I think this is his first time he's seen a proper miracle in person. Like, he didn't show up for the creation of the earth.
Right.
He saw angels fight. And this is just what we know. He saw angels fight each other.
Yeah.
Then he wound up in the garden. He didn't see the earth be created. And then, he probably saw the parting of the Red Sea, though. I'm sure there's an episode on Moses.
Definitely.
They probably have seen that.
Yeah.
So you're probably right. Whatever.
He's a dumb kid.
He's like I said, they have a sort of weird status quo they have to always loop back to.
Right.
Otherwise, you're right. It would just be like, well, we've seen these motherfuckers in person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, so when he gets a chance, Chris goes to talk to either Peter or Paul. I'm not sure which apostle, but he talks to one of them and asks some hard questions about the nature of reality. What's real and what's not. And Paul or Peter gives him an analogy about the reflection of a rope in the water. Mm-hmm. Because the rope goes in and it looks like it's spinning this way, but really it's spinning the other way.
Yeah.
So he's like, and that's what life is like. You may appear to be one thing, but the truth is this other thing.
It's all an illusion.
It's all an illusion.
Lizard people.
And with Jesus, it appears to be what it is in reality. Because Jesus is the Son of God or gets his power from God or something like that. So basically, there are illusions, but then there's the truth. And Jesus is the truth or something like that.
Gotcha.
It was a bit of a confused metaphor, so I lost.
And I don't think the kid got it either.
Yeah, he was like, I think I'm gonna go. But Jesus and his posse are now passing through the desert, and they come across some angry swine that are impeding their path. And maybe it's because they're Jewish or something, but they're like, pigs, we gotta go. We can't do it.
They weren't angry yet.
The pigs were like noisy, but the people.
Yeah.
Somebody comes to Jesus and he's like, they're really dangerous and they're really dirty.
I don't remember that part.
No, someone told him the pigs are dangerous. I was like, how? The pigs.
I guess that is a Jewish thing.
That's what I'm assuming. That's what I'm chalking it up to.
Yeah.
Because I'm not aware that pigs are dangerous unless they're like
not dangerous.
really big and tusked and angry.
Boars.
Yeah, boars can be dangerous.
Right.
But even then,
no, pigs are
pretty
awesome.
Peaceful, right?
Yeah.
But that's okay. For whatever reason, they're worried about the pigs. So they're thinking about going around. But Jesus can sense that something is in the air tonight. And Satan has sent out one of his minions. Mm-hmm. So they just keep walking. And they come across this guy. And he's like...
inconspicuous.
The guy's inconspicuous?
Yes, I'm being sarcastic.
Yes. Because he comes up to Jesus and he's like twitching and vibrating.
After like crawling down the stairs Exorcist style. He's basically Gollum.
And then he talks to Jesus and he has multiple voices. And he's very clearly having some trouble living and even really breathing. He's like... Jesus!
Yeah, he sounds like Schmeagol.
Yeah, he does. At least one of the 6 voices he's got sounds like Schmeagol. But he's just like, I don't even know what they're fighting about.
I don't know.
It's a strange way to get to this miracle, because I'm pretty sure it just happened in a city.
Yeah.
Instead of just we're roaming through the desert, here's some pigs and a man.
Well, he's just like, there's a whole bunch of things inside me.
Yeah. And he just says straight up, I'm possessed, help me.
Yeah.
Basically.
And then he's like, Jesus, put my souls, or put these, demons in those pigs. And Jesus is like, okay.
Yeah, so let's a little more point by point, but that's 100%. Jesus commands the spirit to tell him its name, and it is legion, for they are many inside this man. That's the line from the Bible, more or less. And then they, like Hillary says, insist on not being sent far away, but instead into the pigs from before. And so Jesus is like, okay, demon.
They solved their own problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, you're a demon, so why can't I?
That's a great idea.
I should just do that. And so he puts them in the pigs, and they're now possessed. And so they immediately stampede straight off of a cliff.
That is the most upsetting thing I have seen in a children's show.
It's bizarre.
So they fucked that pig farmer's life up.
I was actually going to say that. This guy's life is ruined.
Right.
Because...
that's his whole business.
Yeah. You don't fart pigs accidentally.
No. His whole business just fell off of the cliff.
Because Jesus just listened to a demon for some reason.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be God, right?
Right. So you can make Trinity, you can send those demons back to hell. He has that power.
But instead he's like, I don't like pigs anyway.
Yeah. Fuck pigs.
And the craziest part is, well, I guess that's what I was saying. Why would God listen to a demon? If anything, it's obvious. I would think it would be an obvious trick.
Yeah.
Put me in those pigs. And be like, well, obviously I'm not going to... Why? No.
Why do you want to be in pigs?
That's stupid. I'm not going to do what you ask me to do. But so they ruin this man's life, and I guess they solve their pig problem because the pigs are all dead too?
Yeah, so now I guess they can keep walking that way.
Yeah. And the story itself never really made a ton of sense, even in the Bible. But it makes even less sense in this version, the Superbook version.
Okay, cool.
Again,
we're on the same page.
They're in the middle of the desert. There's a man. Who is the man? Who's the pig farmer? Like, can't they ask the pig farmer, put your pigs away? Is the man the pig farmer? I don't know. Who knows?
I don't know.
But I don't know. It's not worth dwelling on.
Pretty happy pigs up until Jesus ruined their lives.
Yeah. But the possessed guy wants to follow Jesus now. But Jesus asks him instead to simply go home and tell the people what he has been through and what he has seen. And Satan takes this as a personal attack, solving his pig problem. And so he swears vengeance again on Jesus. And Chris Quantum, he's fully convinced now. And he can tell that Jesus has power over man, over nature, and even over things unseen. That's a quote. That's not me.
Yeah.
And then he too is sent by Jesus to go and tell others what he has seen and heard. And with that, the children and their robot companion are sent back home, and they land in the same park where they watched Miraculo perform before. And they're inspired by the story about the rope illusion in the water. Chris is able to determine how Miraculo appeared to fly. Mm-hmm. There is an invisible wire that he concealed in the fountain in the middle of this park.
Yes.
And the magician comes back.
Except for, it doesn't explain it, because he stands on the wire and then lifts up, but there's no mechanism to make that wire lift.
Hey.
Also, how did he disappear into smoke?
Mid-air. I mean, if ninjas can do it, why can't a magician?
I've never seen a ninja do it either. TV.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Whatever.
3 ninjas.
You saw it in John Wick 3? They weren't smoke bombs, but they were crowds.
Sure.
They just stole that shit from Assassin's Creed, by the way.
I don't care. It was a great movie.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm not saying, like...
And probably better than Assassin's Creed.
It's stupid because they stole it from Assassin's Creed. No, it's actually just cool to see because in Assassin's Creed, one of the mechanics in the game is if you're being chased, you can literally blend into crowds like that.
That's awesome.
Like, just sort of start walking the same way.
Right.
And you'll just sort of mesh.
Yes.
And then the movie did, and I was like, that's awesome. It's really cool. That's from a game I played once. But anyway, I don't know. He's got ninja powers. He's a smoke bomb boy.
Right.
But you're right. It doesn't actually explain how he manages to fly.
No.
Like, all we have is a wire in a fountain.
Yeah.
How does it go up?
Right.
How does he slide across it?
No.
Like,
makes no sense.
Is there another giant tree in the sky that he's got it attached to?
Right.
Like, no one knows what happened. But the magician sees them playing with his devices, solving his miracle tricks. And he tells them to take your hands off my stuff. And he smugly asks if they are here to see another miracle. Would you like to see another miracle?
Yes. And then he pulls out cards. No one will ever consider cards a miracle.
But they're no longer interested because, of course, they've seen the real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he
Smug
says,
ass kids.
They're smug now.
Yeah.
But the magician asks, who's better than me? Who's my competition? And, of course, Chris Quantum, mm-hmm. leaves him by saying that God is the only true miracle worker. And so the kids head home triumphantly and inspired by the power of the Lord Jesus.
Yep.
And that's the end of that episode.
Yep.
But
back to bed to forget it all.
Back to what?
They're going to bed to forget it all.
That's exactly right. Like, wow, that was a really cool adventure. I sure hope we don't come with... They just pass out because God erases their memory.
Yes. That's amazing.
Maybe God has, like, Men in Black where they neuralize people.
I would...
Like, you've seen too much.
Yeah, you've gone too far. You've seen too much.
Yeah, that could be it.
Yeah.
It's got little agents, priests.
Whatever.
We have to break down this entirety, like, the background of the show one day. We're gonna have to watch all of them just to figure out exactly what happens.
I'm in.
I would have been mad about it.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's talk about the next episode. This one is called The Final Battle. And because we're talking about this next episode, and you have a sentence for it.
I do.
Tell me what it is.
Satan makes good points while children learn they can get away with anything.
All right. That works.
Yeah. And it fits with yours a little bit.
It does.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I wrote a broad one that works for both, and you wrote just 2 that works for each. It's better this way. Again, we sort of instinctively did different things.
Yeah.
We're good mates.
We're a freaking match.
We're a match. So the next episode is really the one I've been looking for. Mm-hmm. Because the final battle, it's my personal favorite part of the Bible because it's the craziest part of the Bible.
It's fucking bonkers.
The book of Revelation is insane. And this honestly skips over a lot of it. I wish it had gotten into more detail.
Yeah.
But I still liked it. So we open to a legion of demons marching as Satan gives them orders. And I know what you're thinking. The version we watched had some sort of Russian text on the screen.
Yes.
It was the name of the episode, Revelation, the Final Battle.
I figured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to...
But it did make me nervous. I'm like, is there going to be, like, Russian subtitles this whole time? No. Not at all. It was fine.
Yeah. But they are marching through, and Satan gives them orders and proclaims that today is the last day of the world. So now we're back to the human world, where Chris and Joy are in their house while Chris's parents are away in his house. I don't know why she just hangs out in their house.
She really lives there.
But he wants to clean the house for his parents. Or maybe he was told to.
His mom told him that he needed to clean the house before she got home.
But he is deciding to use machinery that's way too powerful for their tiny little baby hands.
Right.
It's
as he did in the first episode, I believe.
It's some sort of like...
This is a thing he does. Not listen to anybody, ruin everything.
Yeah, it's some sort of like atomic vacuum or something. Who knows? Because his dad is a super scientist. And maybe his mom is too, but we know at least his dad is.
Yeah, well, he's not smart enough to put a lock on his door.
So he's using this crazy vacuum to try to clean the house. But of course, he quickly loses control of the situation. And things go really poor because he causes a tremendous fire.
He burns the fucking shit to the ground.
I know. But to be fair, part of this is part of it. All of it is on him. Mm-hmm. Part of the reason it got bad was because Joy was telling him not to, and she was telling Gizmo to stop him, the robot.
Yeah.
And Chris turned off Gizmo.
Right, which is another breaking the rules thing, because he was supposed to never turn Gizmo off.
Yeah, he was literally told, don't ever turn Gizmo off.
Right.
But Gizmo was being an annoying nag, so he was just like, fuck off, Gizmo.
Yeah.
But he starts this huge fire, and so as the fire starts, the theme song starts up again. It's really cool. I still want to point out that it's really interesting.
Yep.
I've been watching She-Ra. I like that show.
The original?
The Netflix show.
Oh.
The new one. It's actually pretty solid, but it could use a better theme song. Like, I like it. I think the show is solid.
Yeah, you need a good theme song with
the theme song. Yeah. It's got the elements of a good one. Mm-hmm. It's just, in itself, I don't think it works.
Gotcha.
But it's got a cool hook, and it's got a good, like, rhythm to it. It's just, I think it might be too long, maybe? I'm not sure.
Gotcha.
But maybe in season 2 they fix it. I don't know. I'm only on, like, episode 7. Despite Chris being the son of a super scientist, or maybe 2, Joy is clearly the smart one. Because she immediately turns Gizmo back on to see if he can at least stop the fire, or if not, rescue them from the huge fire. But he can't. He can't stop the fire. So they all just escape the blaze, and the entire house burns to the ground. Yeah. It's a frame of a frame at this point.
Right.
There's nothing left. Also, how did it blow up all that super scientist equipment, too? Maybe that helped.
Yeah. No, that was like... It was a room full of bombs that he set on fire.
Yeah, that's what it was. You probably shouldn't keep this in the house with your kid.
No, again.
Who is known to play with your stuff.
Fucking lock. Yeah. Something.
So Joy tries to reassure Chris that everything will be okay, but Chris is certain that it will never be okay, and he'll never be forgiven for this. And Superbook is petty, and he's inspired again to take the children away, even over Chris protesting. Yeah. It's like, Superbook, not fucking now, no, come on, man.
Kidnapping.
It's literally
that is what's happening, yeah.
By a storybook. But Superbook intends to teach them the lesson that there's nothing that cannot be forgiven. Mm-hmm. So this time, they see the glorious Lucifer in all of his angelic glory when Chris lands, but he's separated from his friends. Yeah. And so Chris is like, are you an angel? He's like, yeah. Sure. And so Chris bows before him because he's an angel and therefore much more powerful than his lowly human self. And if you've seen or heard our previous episode on Superbook, seen the show, right, or heard our episode, right, you would know that Satan and Chris have come into conflict before. So it's this really funny moment where Chris is bowed to him and he turns around to sort of like be sad alone. Yeah. And Satan turns into his little demon form and he's like, ah, like I'm gonna eat ya or something. But then he realizes that Chris is sad and he's sulking. So he goes back to his regular Lucifer face and he sort of tries to take advantage and talk to him so he can, you know, get him on his side maybe. Right. Because he says he can sense that he's disappointed God. And he can relate because he once did something bad as well. Mm-hmm. And neither of them can ever be forgiven. But it's going to be okay because Chris is not alone. He has Lucifer now. Right. He doesn't say, I am Lucifer. He says, you have me now, but...
Right. Chris burned down his family home. Yes. Lucifer disagreed with God once.
I think he did try to take over heaven.
Eventually.
So he tried to usurp the throne.
But I think at first he's like, what the heck, man? Yeah. I have questions. He's like, you're not allowed to have questions.
You're not allowed to ask questions. I'm the king. So, yeah. Like I said before, Chris has been separated. So now we see Gizmo and Joy have wound up in heaven itself, outside of time and space entirely. And they are interrupted by John, the friend of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
This is how they identify this man.
Yes.
Oh, you're John, the friend of Jesus. And he's
I have
here.
other qualities, you know.
Yeah, I'm bearded. I look like Santa, but thin.
I have hobbies.
I'm sexy Santa.
Sexy Santa. Now this one's a little bit more Kenny Rogers.
Yeah, that is. So he's here to bear witness to the end of days, when Jesus returns to earth and sets things right. So if it wasn't obvious, we're at the end of days.
Mm-hmm.
And he says basically he's already seen a whole lot of crazy shit, and it's time for the truly good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna go buck wild.
Yeah.
He doesn't say this, but he basically does. He's like, hey kids.
It's gonna be golden.
Yeah, he's like, look here, children. You came at just the right time.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be nuts. It's gonna be awesome. Stick with me, kids. It's gonna be some crazy shit.
Hope you brought your own popcorn.
Hope you brought your shrooms, because we're gonna need to add some color to this color. But Joy deflects from Gizmo's dumb robot antics because he's doing dumb robot shit.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I want to, explore this column. I don't know. Who cares? Gizmo sucks.
Yeah, he kind of does. He's such a missed opportunity.
Yeah. But basically she points out that they need to find Chris because they don't know where he is, and they need to do it quickly. Because, where is he? If he's not in heaven, that could be bad, especially if the end of the world is coming.
Right.
So we're back with Satan and Chris, and he tries to convince Chris that creation itself is broken and it needs to be corrected. So he shows Chris visions of slavery and war throughout the ages of man. And Chris says, it's people that make those choices, not God. And this pisses Satan off. I think fairly.
And me.
And me, yeah. It's like, isn't that worse? God designs the world so that it punishes the innocent for the mistakes of others.
Yeah.
If that means anything, it means that God is wrong.
Thank you, Satan.
Yeah, he's like, that's hard to argue.
Yeah.
But Chris tells him that God doesn't do that. All he does is forgive. And Satan retorts that there is no forgiveness. And I would make the argument, and I have before, and I will again, I will every time it comes up. Mm-hmm. In a reality, in eternity, where hell exists, you're not going to convince me that God is super forgiving.
No. Because
he throws people into torture.
Right.
Forever.
Right.
I think I mentioned this, but if I haven't, Buddhists, some Buddhists at least, have a concept of hell.
I did not know that.
Yeah, some. And it is spectacularly terrible. Mm-hmm. Hilariously over the top.
More than Dante?
Yeah.
Okay.
Crazy shit. For 100 million years, you'll be smashed between two rocks. Just constantly ground to a pulp, but unable to die. Some crazy shit like that, right?
Awesome.
But that number I gave, 100 million, mm-hmm. That's not literal, but it's part of it. They gave a number.
Right.
The point is, they gave a number.
Right.
Take that number.
There's a verdict.
Right. Take that number.
Right.
Because after you work off your sins or whatever in Buddhist hell, mm-hmm. you go to nirvana. You're released from your punishment. Even if it was 300 million years, right?
Right.
The difference is, 300 million is a number, and it has an end.
And it's not eternity.
Eternity never fucking ends.
Right.
So if you hear that, and you're like, oh, that's a really crazy fate.
Yeah.
At least you can take some solace in the fact that it does end.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So you're never going to convince me that the super forgiving guy is a guy who just puts you in that situation, but instead, forever.
Right.
It's no, that's...
No redemption.
There's no redemption in that scenario. You're a terrible person.
No forgiveness. Right.
So that's all I just want to say. And they have they have a bunch of layers and stuff. Buddhist hell is crazy too. But the point is, it's finite.
Is there a movie about it?
I don't know.
Because there should be.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Yeah, it would.
Maybe we'll look into it.
Okay.
So Satan tells Chris that there simply is no forgiveness. And if God really wanted mankind to be at peace, there would be no sickness and no death. Think about how many die of hunger every day, not to mention the floods, hurricanes, and other natural disasters. And then he sort of gets personal. He says, what about the good son who just wants to clean the house for his parents, but he ends up burning it down instead?
He didn't want to clean the house for his parents. His mom told him to, and he wanted to do it the lazy way.
Well...
This was not a boy trying to do his best.
Satan tells him, we're not to blame.
Right.
The problem is God himself. And, like we've said a little bit, I have to say, I know Satan is supposed to be the bad guy here, mm-hmm. but he makes a pretty good argument.
Yes, he does.
Is it perfect? No. Would I refine it some? Yes. Yeah. But he's not wrong.
Right. We are in agreement.
So it's okay. Yeah, this is, especially for a child, you don't have to make perfect arguments. You have to make convincing ones.
Right.
This is not bad. Satan's argument is much better than the hilariously naive one that Chris is making.
Mm-hmm.
But we're supposed to believe that, of course, Chris's side is the only real choice here. So let's see how the show justifies it. Because right now we're cutting back to heaven.
Right.
Where Gizmo has turned on his rocket legs to try to look for the spirit of God. And I realize in this moment that I really just hate this robot. He's not useful in any way.
He's not useful.
He's not funny.
He's never prevented Chris from fucking things up.
No.
Yeah, he makes stupid jokes.
He's just always doing dumb robot antics. I'm just like, why is this robot here?
Yeah.
Could he be anywhere else?
I'm assuming his dad never wanted to turn him off because maybe he's more of a spy. Like, he's just there to record everything happening so the dad can keep an eye on his son.
That's definitely it.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Because he's not useful in any other way.
No.
So...
Well, a little bit later.
Okay, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, he does do a thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, John explains that the Spirit of God, the thing that he's looking for, it's always present, and it surrounds them even now. But as he's explaining this, he's called away by the sound of horns. And he leaves the kids with the instruction to obey the Holy Spirit and be faithful to the end. So Satan and Chris continue to discuss the Lord himself, and Satan tells him that he shouldn't care about being forgiven by an unjust and cruel God. That guilt is just a feeling that capital He created to control Chris.
Yep.
So Satan creates his own version of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and he offers it to Chris with the promise that should he eat the fruit, he will be free of the pain of guilt and blame.
I would have eaten the fuck out of that fruit.
Just.
It also was just really pretty.
It looks good.
It looks like an opal. Like a juicy opal.
So Chris is tempted for just a moment. He almost grabs it. But then he realizes that this is Satan, because, again, he was in his Lucifer form, so he was fancy and had blonde hair. Which obviously a demon can't have.
Right.
But he realizes that this is Satan, and he rejects him because he's been told that Satan is evil. So he'd rather take punishment from those that love him than run away and be stuck with Satan. But let's be clear. What has happened here? Satan has made a very good argument that most of the shitty things that happen in the world are God's fault.
Yes.
At least in the sense that if he wanted to, really wanted to, he could stop them. And that is strictly true. I know there's always going to be some excuse for, like, this reason. But it is still true.
Yes.
Right? Even if we assume there is a justification. And then, when he gives Chris this opportunity to be like, hey, you can be free of that sort of shame and guilt and blame and all that stuff, Chris is like, oh, I just realized who you are, and you're supposed to be the bad guy. I was told that by the guy who you're arguing against successfully. But that means he's right.
I've already committed to the other one.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally just... Is partisanship the right word?
Yes.
Well, it is.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's just like, well, I'm already on this guy's side, so, like, you must be bad. Like, this is what good, complex narratives are about. When you're on the right side of something, then you're like, you think you are, and then you realize the other side, and you're like, oh, shit. I've been wrong the whole time.
Yes.
The new She-Ra. She-Ra works for the bad guys in the first episode. And then she meets the other guys, and she's like, you guys are evil. And they're like, what? No, we're not. And it happens quickly. Yeah. But eventually she's like, oh, I'm the asshole.
Wasn't there a Black Mirror episode about that?
Yes. And
military
it was one of the best ones.
Yeah, that was one of the best ones. That was so good.
So, it's just one of those...
the baddies.
You think we're the baddies. But predictably, being told that he's the bad guy and Chris sides with Jesus pisses Satan off, and so he turns on Chris, and this is when we figure out he might be the bad guy. Because he gets rejected, and the little human boy, in Satan's words, has no one who loves him, and no one strong enough to protect you except me.
I mean, no one in his life is stronger than Satan.
That's true. I mean, that's technically
very
true,
too.
Yeah. But he turns to his demon form just as Chris is inspired by the Holy Spirit and rejects his threats. Like, he's sort of, like, cowers for a second. Then a little aura hits him. He's like, oh yeah, and he stands up and he's like, fuck you. Yeah. But Joy and Gizmo have now been teleported to where Chris is. But they're still separated from him because Satan has created a giant tree and he's trapped himself and Chris inside. Yeah. So that he can kill him at his leisure, I suppose.
Like a weird combination of Maleficent and Jafar. Because he turns into a giant snake, like Jafar does at the end. But then Maleficent also built that whole, like, thorn wall to keep Philip out of the castle. Yeah. That's exactly what this was.
That's pretty, I mean, take inspiration where it comes, right?
Yeah, right.
But he's basically just gonna kill Chris, probably. Because he turns into a giant snake, but of course he doesn't have arms this time. Lame.
I know, he needed little beefy arms.
But Chris is backed into a corner before the Holy Spirit reminds him to have no fear, and the Lord will deliver him in times of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So again, Chris goes from cowering, because he's scared of the giant snake, to running for his life.
Yeah.
Which isn't super brave, but is at least something.
Yes.
It's better than just, like, curling up in a
He's trying to run
ball.
to his friends, at least.
Right. And so he dodges Satan's giant snake attacks just long enough for Gizmo to cut a small hole into the tree.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris manages to jump through that hole to safety.
There you go. He was helpful that one time.
He was useful that one
He's
time.
going to be one more time.
Of course, if the robot never existed, I'm sure they would have just found another way for this to happen.
Like, for instance, the hole in the trees to his left.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice that?
Or the Holy Spirit, which has, unlimited power. It could just be like...
You put all the holy holes.
And you just blow the whole tree up, really.
Yeah.
But okay. Whatever.
Yeah.
But when Chris makes it out of the tree, the children are now confronted by Satan's entire army. So Satan destroys the tree to free himself from the confines he created.
Mm-hmm.
And now his army, in his own words, surrounds every city on Earth, and they will all soon feel my anger. So Satan's gonna blow some shit up.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty dope scene because a horn now blows, just as the kids are like... It would have been cool.
Yeah.
If the kids got a Captain America type scene.
Yes.
Where it's the two children and a robot.
Yeah.
And they see this army of demons. And he just, like, cracks his neck. He's like, ugh. Okay.
Here we go.
Let's do this. It's one of my favorite things. Not just of that movie, though, yes, obviously.
Right.
But just in fiction.
Right.
One of my, they make these Resident Evil movies, and they're usually pretty bad.
Yeah.
But there's one dope scene. And you may not know what a tyrant is, but imagine like a 9-foot man he weighs 9,000 pounds, pure raw muscle, and regenerates, right? And he's got big claws in his hands, so he can kill you basically with a look. There's a stupid scene in one of them where Leon, the main character, a human, a regular man, sees one of these things from far away. And he's been completely disarmed. He has a small 8-inch knife. Maybe not small, but a knife, right? He's got a knife. And this thing is looking at him, and they see each other. He's like, okay. So he grabs his knife real tight, and they just start running at each other. And it's a stupid movie.
Yeah.
But the scene is so fucking cool. Just because he's like, I'm about to kill this thing with a knife.
Right.
Even though he knows he's
I'm
not.
just about to die wicked bad.
Right. And of course, before they hit each other, like a mortar shell blows
Something
up
happens,
the thing. Yeah. But it's just so cool. Yeah, it's just always cool to see no matter what. Mm-hmm. Just someone being like, all right, fine. So I would have loved to see these kids be like, I guess we gotta kill Satan's army. Gizmo, get that blade ready.
Right, just like, he's supposed to be kind of like hold on. He's supposed to be like an Inspector Gadget type. So I'm sure he has some weapons like hidden under that.
Like, did my dad give you any laser blasters or something? Because we're gonna need them.
Where's that vacuum that killed our house?
That's the one. Bring it all full circle.
Yes.
But anyway, a horn blows and a divine army led by Jesus appears. Mm-hmm. Jesus on a flying horse. So we've got soldiers on Pegasi and angels confront demons on foot and demons with wings. Those are the two types of soldiers. And an all-out street fight war breaks out because explosions made of light rocket the area as Jesus' army is undefeatable because Jesus is the most powerful entity ever. Mm-hmm. And so he simply, eventually, Satan does a couple things. He tries to fight, but he simply banishes him away with a purple Kamehameha. Just like...
I don't know what that means.
It's a Dragon Ball thing.
Oh.
But basically a wave of energy. He goes, poof, and it's purple, and it hits Satan. He's like, oh, shit, oh, no! Doesn't he, shrink or something? Or does he just fly away?
I think he's, shrinks into the distance.
Yeah, okay. I knew it was getting smaller, but I wasn't sure in what context. But either way, the kids wake up to see a completely empty battlefield, left with nothing but smoke and swords and bodies.
Well, they had been under Gizmo's protective, roly-poly shell.
I guess he had one thing he could help with.
That was helpful, yeah.
But it was pretty cool. It was brief. But it was cool to see just all the monsters kill each other.
Yeah.
Just like, alright, shit. Even the little light effects, the explosion effects were pretty cool.
No, I was impressed.
They looked like space explosions.
Yeah, it was well animated.
So they wake up and they just see basically ruin left. And John explains that this was the final battle. And Satan and all evil has been destroyed forever. But of course, Joy realizes that they are on Earth. And the Earth has been destroyed.
Right.
So she's like, what are we going to do about the Earth? But a voiceover tells us that God will be with his people. And so the world is recreated underneath the feet of the children. And we watch the lame walk, the sick become healthy again, and all the other ills of the world are eliminated because God has restored the entirety of creation.
He's done it the right way this time.
The way it was intended to be. And so the kids walk through the golden gate of heaven, and they head toward the throne of God, where they see Jesus standing alongside a shiny golden version of God that they can't really see.
Yeah, he's too much light.
Right. And they all bow, the kids, the robot, and John, they all bow before God himself and are transported back to the real world by Superbook.
Yeah.
And so Chris has made it back, and he's like sort of figured it out, and I guess he sort of realizes that maybe I can be forgiven, even though he didn't. My favorite part, though,
is when they first show up back, and what's the girl's name? Joy.
Mm-hmm.
Joy goes, "Oh, I forgot about this.
I completely forgot about the life-ruining incident."
Right.
I didn't realize she said that. That's stupid. And I guess Chris is now sort of inspired to think that some people can be everything can be forgiven.
Yeah.
Even though he hasn't seen anything.
Right.
About forgiveness.
Mm-mm. No.
He did sort of, I guess, accept to believe that anything can be forgiven. But nothing in the adventure he just had showed any forgiveness. In fact, again, Satan and his minions were now sent to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Forever.
Right. The opposite.
There is no forgiveness there.
Right.
They are not forgiven.
No.
And the people who presumably died in the final battle, okay, they're alive again, but they didn't do anything.
Right.
So he forgave people who didn't do anything?
He forgave nothing.
Yeah, so there was...
usual.
I'm not saying the episode was dumb or anything. I thought it was dope. But the moral of the story makes no sense.
The lesson that was supposed to be learned doesn't track
remotely. It's not remotely here.
Mm.
If anything, it should have been a lesson about how God is super powerful and will fuck you up if you mess with him.
Right. Definitely be on his side.
Because
it's more like choosing the winning side over the right side. Yeah.
But he wonders aloud if his parents will be able to forgive him. And of course they arrive right when he says that. And they express how worried they were that something had happened. Holy shit, I heard something happened. I'm just glad you're okay. And Dad blames Gizmo at first. He's like, Gizmo, why didn't you stop this? But Chris stands in front of Gizmo, and he's like, it was my fault. I did everything wrong. I'm the worst.
Yes.
And he asks for forgiveness, and of course his parents say, obviously we can forgive you. A house is just a house. You're my son.
Yeah. He did neglect to apologize.
I'm sure they'll get to it.
No, they don't.
I don't mean in this episode. I'm hoping they're going to talk a little more detail.
He probably should have apologized and then asked for forgiveness.
Yeah, that's true. But, like they said, a house is just a house. He's their son. They're not too worried about that. And looking at the wreckage, they do lament the mess. But Chris reminds them that with God...
potentially billions of dollars of technology.
Hopefully they have a very good insurance policy. But Chris reminds them that with God, all things can be restored. And so Superbook then sets up season 2, because this is the end of the first season, by having Chris acknowledge that with Superbook around, there's always more adventures to be had. Oh, that scamp Superbook!
Is there a second season?
There is.
Okay, so they set it up and it happened.
Yeah.
Right on.
I think I looked it up last week. Yeah, I think there's a second season. So that's it.
All right.
So let's talk about the best. Let's talk about the worst.
Okay.
What's the best?
Let's see. The best is that this was enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
Very enjoyable.
I would watch this shit anytime.
Fucking love Satan.
Yeah. The best for me is Satan. He's the best character.
Without question.
He's the funniest character.
Yes.
He's the rightest character.
Correct.
He's the most interesting character.
Yes.
Which is also true of Satan. Paradise Lost, great book, mostly because Satan's the main character.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it's just Lucifer / Satan.
Yeah. Okay, we agree on that.
And the worst...
I'm gonna guess that yours is Gizmo.
Fuck yeah. The robot sucks.
Yeah, it does. The worst for me is Chris.
Little
bastard.
He is a bit of a bastard.
Yeah. Another one of those shows was the lead character is a really narcissistic boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's always wrong.
He's always wrong, but learns nothing.
Even in the earlier episode, the beginning of the world one.
Yeah.
He was the one who was cozy with Satan for just a second.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, you're the bad guy. And then in this episode, does the same thing.
Yeah.
Joy is perfect.
He ignores Joy and Gizmo, who actually are telling him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Joy is always perfect and right.
Right.
She's usually on the right side of things.
Right.
But yeah, Chris is always kind of sucky.
Yeah.
I hate Gizmo more because he is just so annoying.
I get that.
But you're right that Chris is probably actively worse.
Yes.
But of course, how are you going to learn if you don't have somebody who's stupid all the time?
You gotta have an Eric.
You gotta have an Eric. Okay, so let's talk about some things that are like this that aren't this.
Okay.
Even though you should watch this, because this is great.
Yeah, there's no reason not to watch this.
But I'm going to go with sort of what I've been doing recently for these, is what is somewhat like this in subject matter, but not.
Gotcha.
And so I'm thinking children and the end of the world.
Yes.
I have a series of video games that are like this.
Where children are at the end of the world?
Yes. It's called Shin Megami Tensei. I've talked about it before.
Yeah.
Almost all of them are about the end of the world. The mainline series.
Okay.
The fourth one is literally called Apocalypse, because the world has been destroyed. And, if you want to, you have options, but you can literally punch Satan in the face.
Oh,
and
that's
if you don't want to do that, you can punch God in the face.
Oh my god, no way.
Yes.
That's awesome.
You can literally fight Yahweh and kill him.
What?
And so it's pretty cool. And then there's also 3, which is the same way. You're like this incredibly powerful creature who can't reshape the world on your own, but you're so powerful that whatever side you choose is probably going to win. And in that same game, you can choose to go against Satan, choose nobody and fight everybody. You can punch God in the head. You can do whatever you want.
That's
you're
amazing.
Like, it's a really fun, cool
What
series
system
of
is it
games.
on?
3 was on PlayStation 2.
Okay.
Apocalypse is on 3DS.
Right on. Is that what you play on your 3DS?
Yeah.
Right on.
It's dope. It's a dope game.
Maybe I don't have a 3DS. I have a DS.
Well, maybe we can
Whatever.
hook you up anyway.
Well, mine is not a watch this, not that. It's more of a read this, not that.
Yeah.
And that would be Good Omens.
Oh, yeah. They made an Amazon series.
They did make an Amazon series. I've only seen the first episode, and I can already tell I might like the series, but it's not going to hold a candle to the book whatsoever.
Gotcha.
The premise is Heaven and Hell are kind of working together to start the apocalypse, essentially.
Because it is necessary.
Because it's necessary. Yeah, it is what is written. And meanwhile, there is a demon and an angel that have been living on Earth for a very long time, who decide to team up to try to prevent said apocalypse.
Right.
And it is hilarious, and it is clever, and it is fun. Read Good Omens, or if you're lazy, watch the series, but don't assume that it's as good as the book, because it's not.
Right. It's just not gonna be.
It's just not gonna be.
Sorry. So yes, we've got 2 suggestions. Read Good Omens or punch God in the nads.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Or both.
Or both. Do both.
Why not?
Don't you want to punch God in the nads?
Take a break from reading. Punch God in the nads.
Exactly. You can read your book, punch God in the nads.
Yes.
And then you have to work up to it. You can't just be like, step 1, punch God in the nads.
Right.
But when you get there, it's really satisfying. All right, so now let's talk about next week. And I forgot to write this down. Do you know what it is?
Prodigal Planet.
The 4th in the series of Thief in the Night.
We're fucking almost done.
We're finishing it up. I did talk to Hannah already.
Okay.
She said she believes she can record with us.
I hope she can.
So we're going to be great.
Did you remind her about the cookies?
I'll do it today.
Cool. I wasn't joking.
She owes us cookies. You cookies.
She can choose either chocolate chip or white chocolate macadamia. I recognize that the macadamia nuts are very expensive.
That's fair.
So I will be happy with chocolate chip cookies.
That's
Hannah,
fair.
thank you. We love you.
We love you so much. Unless something goes wrong, we're going to have our guest back to finish up
Da-da-da-da.
the Thief in the Night series.
Yay.
And, this time I wonder, since last time we celebrated a baby being executed, I'm just curious if we're going to get a chance to, celebrate a genocide or something.
I mean,
Like,
it's shaping up that way.
it very well could.
Right.
So we're going to find out, because I actually don't know what happens in this one. I'm sure I've seen it, but I forgot. So we're going to close out that series with Prodigal Planet.
Gorgeous.
And remember, if you like this show, please give us a 5-star review on whatever podcast app or service you are using, and tell your friends or anybody else about us any way you can. Maybe tell the husband of you and your husband's girlfriend. That would be a good way someone to tell.
That's so super weird. It's a very weird request.
And links to everything are in the description of this episode, and that includes a website where you can send us a comment or a question so that we can do a mailbag.
Yeah.
Send us some comments, send us some questions, send us some fan mail.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't care. Do it.
Mail.
Hate mail works too.
Yeah.
Start a flame war with me.
Oh, will you engage?
No, probably not.
It'll be a weak ass flame.
Maybe I will. Depends on the flame.
Yeah.
Whatever. As always, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate your fucking faces.
You do very much. We love you.
And bye.
Bye.